9. Isra. I step into the garden, shaking all over, but not from the cold. I'm barely aware of the cold. I'm racing inside. My pulse rushes like a river beneath the city, wild and reckless and angry. And frightened. I am frightened too. I've been frightened my entire life, but that fear was different from this. The former was a monster hiding in the shadows at the end of a long-wind lane. This fear is death, reaching for my throat with both hands, so close that I can hear his cold breath seep from his lungs. Junji tried to keep the news quiet, but there was little chance of that. The court is still in mourning. There is no music or dancing or play acting to provide entertainment. The only thing to do is talk, and the ladies and gentlemen of court excel at that, especially when the subject of discussion is something so compelling and terrible. A crack in the dome. It was all anyone could whisper about. Is it truly there? What caused it? How long will it take to assess the damages? What will Junji do to ensure the safety of the city? Not, what will Queen Isra do? No one thought to seek my counsel. Junji was the one turned to for guidance. My name was never spoken, but I was at the heart of every hushed conversation that drifted to my giant ears. If the dome is cracked, it will be seen as a sign the covenant is weakening. If the injury can easily be repaired, the panic may pass for a time, but the damage is already done. I press my fist against my lips and hold back the whimper rising in my throat. I knew the day of sacrifice would come, but I didn't expect it would be so soon. My life can't end now, not when I've scarcely had the chance to live it. I lean over, resting my palms on the bed surrounding the roses, digging my fingertips into the rough stone, taking a deep breath, grateful for the cold air that softens the roses' perfume. I don't want my head filled with their ominous stench. I wouldn't have come here at all, except it seems the safest place to meet Jem. I focus my breath until it grows smooth, and finally, my heartbeat slows. I can't lose hope. The crack might not be a crack at all. It could be detritus from the desert stuck on the outside of the glass, or a trick of the light, or something else entirely. Please, please let it be something else. The fissure is too high up for it to be seen clearly, even with a spyglass. The soldiers will have to send a man to take a closer look, which means rigging up a rope and pulley system the city hasn't used in half a century. Bo says it will take at least 3 days to set up the equipment, and that he will be the one to strap onto the harness and be hauled into the void to assess the situation. He promised to keep everyone away from me until then, and to alert Jem's guard that the Monstrous won't be working in the field for the rest of the week. I told Bo I wanted to be alone while I waited to see what effects giving up my morning tea will have on my constitution. But I know he assumed it was fear that made me retreat into my tower. He seemed afraid too. His arm shook as he escorted me to the door. His lips trembled when he pressed a kiss to my cheek. I touch the place now, and swear the patch of skin still feels colder than the rest. It was the first time Bo has dared to kiss since the night he thought we were both infected with poison from Jem's claws. Maybe he only kisses queens who are about to die, I say aloud, fighting the sudden urge to giggle. There's nothing funny about the mad thing I'm about to do. There's nothing funny about what will happen if Bo fails to keep his word, if Junji or his guards enter the tower and discover my absence. They'll know Needle was keeping my disappearance a secret. They'll jail her. Or worse. Probably worse. The smile on my lips prunes into a worried pucker. Needle is taking a terrible risk to help me prove I'm queen, with more to offer to my people than my blood. I can't forget that for a moment I will go carefully and quickly as soon as my eyes arrive. I'll have Needle to thank for that too, if she can manage. The sounds of boots scuffing along the path interrupts my thoughts. I pull my shawl farther over my head and crouch down by the wall, hoping the shadows will conceal me. I hold my breath as 3 soldiers, maybe 4, it's difficult to tell, scuff, scuff, by on the other side of the circular planter. If they'd taken another fork in the path, they would have seen me. My breath rushes out in an unsteady stream, and my legs suddenly feel wobbly. I sit down hard, the paving stones grinding it against my sit bones through the padding of my old gray overalls, layered over my new green ones. I have on long underwear, too, and a shawl and sweater. It will be cold in the desert. The desert. I'm going into the desert. This isn't a plan. It's an act of desperation. But what choice do I have? There isn't time to waste. I have to trust my instinct and hope everything in me that luck is on my side. And Needle's side. And Gem's. Gem. What if he doesn't meet me in the garden? What if, once released from his room, he runs for the nearest gate? What if he kills the soldiers guarding it and escapes into the desert, never to return? He's still weak, but there's a chance he might try it. Maybe even a good chance. I push my shawl back around my shoulders, feeling trapped by the heavy wool. But before I can drop my arms back to my side, I feel it. A vine snaking around my wrist and pulling tightly. I almost cry out in surprise, but manage to stifle the sound at the last moment. The guards are still too close. I can't afford to make any noise. I try my best to quietly wrench my wrist free, but the roses are stronger than I realized. The vine tugs my arm up and over my head, drawing my hand into the thick of the flower's nest. I clench my fist, hoping to protect my fingers, only to feel a thorn, meaner than any I've yet encountered, dig into the thin skin between my knuckles. Ah! I gasp as blood spills, hot and sticky, down the back of my hand, making my eyes fill with tears, even as my borrowed eyes open on the city. I see a tower, my tower, rising from the surrounding fields like some spinny creature from another world. The roses have never shown me the building where I've spent my entire life, but I recognize it immediately. The sharp gold curves of its many roofs, its red stone walls and balcony jutting from the top like a stubborn chin. My borrowed eyes swoop towards the entrance at the tower's base, where a boy with silky black braids, high cheekbones, and bow-shaped lips that any woman at court would envy stands clutching a pair of muddy slippers. The boy is Beau. There's no mistaking those lips. And the slippers are mine, the ones I threw into the flowers the night of my coronation. Beau lifts his hand to knock on the door, while, far away in the garden, my heart beats frantically in my chest. Beau has come to return my slippers, and to demand to know how I managed to lose them in the first place, no doubt. There's an anxious look in his eyes, tension at the edge of his mouth, and an almost guilty twitch in his neck as his head turns from side to side, making sure other guards' eyes are averted. Suddenly, I realize what a good job Beau has done of hiding his true feelings. He cares for me more than I've assumed. There is genuine concern in his expression, but he also fears for my mind more than I would ever guessed. He worries I'm more than odd. He worries I'm touched by my mother's madness, and that one day the queen he's come to care for may become a madwoman who will try and kill her children in the night. I don't know if the rose is magic or my own intuition, but I am certain that it is what Beau feels. And I'm just as certain that he won't leave my tower without knowing how I managed to leave my shoes in a flower bed, only feet from the Monstrous's cell. I have to go. I have to go back to the tower. Now. No sooner than the thought goes through my mind than the thorn withdraws from my flesh, and the vine loosens its grip on my wrist. I pull my hand back to my chest, pressing it tightly to my sweater until I feel the bleeding stop. Breath coming fast, I draw my knees to my chest. I'm prepared to leap up, run back to my tower, and hope I can make the climb to the balcony without being spotted by Beau or the guards. When the greater implications of what has just happened hit hard enough to make my bones weak all over again. The roses knew. Somehow, they knew what I was planning, and they don't want me to go. They showed me just enough to make me afraid, before setting me free. But should I really be afraid? I wonder as I scoot away from the containing wall out of the rose's reach. It's late, nearly midnight. Beau knows better than to come by my rooms at this hour. If he finds the door locked and neither Needle or I answer, he might very well decide to leave and return tomorrow. Tomorrow, then Needle will be at the tower to tell him I'm not feeling well and turn him away. Now, there's no thorn buried beneath my skin. That scenario seems as likely as the one I fear. More likely. But the roses didn't want me to think clearly. They wanted me to run along back to my prison. It could be they simply have the interests of the city at heart. It is dangerous for me to leave, to take such a risk when I'm unmarried and the covenant is unsecured. But the vision felt more insidious, the inexorable grip of the vine more possessive than concerned. As I rub the bruised skin around my new wound, I begin to doubt for the first time in my life what I've been taught about the royal garden. The legends say the roses grew after the first queen's blood hit the ground, a symbol of the sacrifice she'd made and the covenant that would keep Yuan safe. But if, there you are, Jem's voice comes from centimeters away from my ear, close enough to make me gasp. My ears are sensitive, but I didn't hear a thing until he was close enough to touch. By the moons, I'm glad he's here. I'm so glad not to be alone with the roses. I'm weak with it, strong with it. My blood starts to rush again. My bones rediscover their sturdy centers. Thank you for coming. I find his chest with my fingers, flattening my palm against the thick fabric of one of his new shirts, hoping he can feel my gratitude as clearly as I feel his heart thudding beneath his ribs. Ba-bump, 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 ba-bump. The beating grows faster as we sit in silence, our foggy breath mingling beneath our faces. Mine is hot, but his is so much hotter, and it smells nothing of cabbage that he refuses to eat. Jem's breath is fresh sawdust and sweet smoke, chestnuts and celery root, as sharp and clean as the winter air. It's a good smell, a healthy smell that makes me wonder how breath like that would taste on a kiss. Ba-bump, bump. My heartbeat stutters, and I pull my hand away from Jem's chest so quickly that I hit my own throat and begin to choke. Are you all right? He lays a hand on my shoulder, the same shoulder he tore open months ago, the one that bears a tight, sleek scar from the claws that cut the deepest. But now Jem's claws are sheathed, and his fingers are careful, gentle. He's never touched me like this before. We haven't touched in weeks, and even then, only contact was in anger. My fists on his chest, his hands at my wrists, my fingers on his throat, his claws at mine. But this is not anger. This is something else. I'm fine. My whisper is hoarse. I clear my throat. We should go. The patrol. They'll be back soon, he interrupts, his voice gruff. He pulls his hands from my shoulder, leaving my skin colder. Go back to your tower. If I run, I'll be back in my cell before I'm spotted. No, I say louder than I mean to. I bite my lip, then whisper, no. We have to get the bulbs. I know of a secret door into the desert. No one will see us go, and Needle will make sure we aren't missed. And how will she do that? I've cancelled your escort to the field, I explain, ears straining to catch the scuffs of the boots. No one will come to your room except to bring meals. Needle says she can convince the girl who delivers them to allow her to take them over for the next few days. That should be enough, shouldn't it? You said it would take more time than 3 days. 2, if you were quick. He grunts. I can tell he isn't impressed with the plan. And what of the Queen? Won't someone notice your absence? I told Beau I don't wish to be disturbed, I say, throat tightening around what I've left unsaid. The crack in the dome, waiting to be investigated, and the fact that Beau stands at my tower door right now, and all the rest. He'll honor my wish to be left alone for a few days, and Needle will turn him away if he does not. Jem makes another dubious sound. When he speaks again, I can tell he's closer. His breath is warmer. It whispers across my lips, prickling my skin. If your people find out you took me into the desert with no one to protect you or to prevent me from escaping, they'll think you're more rattled in the brain than they already do. Junji will lock you away, and you will never rule this city. I will never rule this city if I am run back to my rooms, I hiss. I must give the people a reason to see me as, or at least remember me, as something more than... The garden will prove I am good and useful queen. I say, cursing myself for nearly losing control of my tongue. I don't want Jem to know. I don't want him to treat me the way people treat a girl who's been marked for death since her birth. The garden will... A faint thud sounds from the direction of the orchard. I freeze, falling silent, until Jem whispers. An apple falling to the ground. There is still fruit on the limbs at the very top. Disgust creeps into his tone. Your people have so much. You leave food to rot. My answer. I have it. I know how to make Jem come with me. I hate to make promises I might not be alive to keep, but I have no choice. Help me tonight, and I will do what I can for your people. You can do nothing. Not now, I agree. But if we fetch these bulbs, and the herbs we need later, if my garden is a success and my people are healed and learn to love me, they will respect my judgment. Come summer, when the first of the crops are in, I'll convince the council to send a portion of what is ours into the desert. The herbs may take months to work. My people can't wait long. All right, I say, growing increasingly desperate. The longer we linger. Then I will send food as soon as I can. I'll convince my advisors it's necessary. A peace offering to keep the desert people from returning to free our captive. And who will deliver this peace offering? You will. I'll talk with Junji. I'll persuade him that you can be trusted and return when your errand is through. Can I? You're here now, I say with more confidence than I feel. You wouldn't be if your father's promise didn't mean something to you. You're honorable. I'll explain that to Junji. Jem's laugh is soft, but parsnip bitter all the same. You think he'll listen? I'll make him listen. Tightness flashes in my jaw. I'm changed. Things have happened tonight that I swallow, moistening my lips with my tongue, struggling to keep my voice even. Things are different now, I whisper. I won't allow Junji to rule in my place. When we return from the desert, I will join the council meetings. I will speak to the people and hear their complaints myself. I will not sit quietly by. I will fight for a place in the city, and I will fight for those who have served me well. Help me, and I will help your people. He's quiet for a long moment. You sound almost like a queen. I will behave like one. I swear it, I say, ignoring the guilty prickle at the back of my neck. Jem could never guess how good the chances are that I won't be around to keep my promise. And I can't tell him. I can't. Especially with the roses hovering behind us like carded birds, watching, waiting for a sign that it's time to swoop down and feed. Please. I'll beg if I... Where is this secret door? Jem asks, taking my hand. My fingers startle open before tightening with a grateful squeeze. I find myself comforted by his callous palm, in a way that I never am by Beau's softness. Jem is going to help. He has given me hope, and I swear to myself that I will give him the same for his people. I will. I will live to honor my promise to him, and hopefully many more. This way. I start towards the orchard, still holding his hand. There's a small gate, the King's Gate, beyond the village green, past the cornfields, near the granaries. It's no more than a door, really. I whisper as we hurry through the trees. I've never been through it, but I'm told it's hidden behind. Jem jerks my arm, hard and sudden, sending a flash of pain through my shoulder. I stumble back, and his arms are suddenly around me, his hand covering my mouth, muffling my rush of breath as our bodies collide. I stiffen, but don't pull away. I stand perfectly still, ears pricking. I press my lips together and nod as Jem's hand drops from my mouth, but his arms remain around my waist, holding me close as the scuff-scuff of boots sounds behind us. Soldiers, on the path we left only moments ago. My stomach turns itself inside out beneath Jem's hand. What if we're spotted? I'm assuming it's darker beneath the trees, but that's only a guess. My world is always dark, without variation. I can't know whether it's better to hide the shadows or run for the green and hope the soldiers don't notice our footsteps. I have to trust that Jem has made the right decision, that standing like frozen statues will keep us safe. But I do trust him. He doesn't want to be caught. If the soldiers find him with the queen pinned to his chest, they won't hesitate. They'll throw their spears, aim for Jem's heart, hope to kill him before he kills me. They won't take the time to see that Jem's claws aren't extended, that his arms are gentle around me, or that my fingers linger over his. They won't notice that I lean into him, not away, or that my head turns to look over my shoulder, bringing my cheek so near to his mouth that his silent breath warms my skin. They would never, in 1,000 years, imagine that my eyes slide close and a shiver runs through me, not because I fear for my life, but because Jem's body, pressed against mine, because his hands on my belly makes it ache, because the longing to taste him is stronger than it was before. If Jem and I were alone, and I were the kind who cared for nothing but my own pleasure, I would turn in his arms, I would arch my back and tilt my head and press my lips to his. I would kiss him the way Beau kissed me in the royal garden. I would not fear his teeth. I would not think how strange it is for tongues to touch. I would not think about cabbage. I would kiss him until I was breathless. They're gone, Jem whispers. My eyes fly open. I exhale sharply, wondering why the news that we were safe makes my heart beat even faster. Isra. Jem's hand curls, and the tips of his fingers press deep into my stomach, and suddenly my long underwear and 2 layers of overalls are not enough protection from his touch. I shudder, and the world shifts, and I fill to the brim with a feeling that I've never felt before. It bubbles inside me until a soft sigh of pain escapes my lips. Pain, because I'm not stupid. I know what this feeling is. King Deshi's love songs were the first melodies I learned to play on my harp. My teacher, Bairu, taught me the chords, sitting behind me with fingers guiding mine, and Father taught me the words. Baba and I would sing the songs together before it was time for me to go to bed. But there were some that I was too embarrassed to sing with him. Even at 10 or 11, I realized not all love songs are about the way love affects the heart. They're about the way love affects the body, about a hunger that has nothing to do with food. King Deshi's metaphors aren't so clever that I couldn't guess their meaning. The pelican with its pulsing beak was no pelican. Needle told me how it is with a man and a woman, and the beak, and the flower, not long after my first blood. Baba thought I was too naive to understand, but I wasn't. Baba. My lungs turned to stone, trapping my next breath and holding it prisoner. He's gone. It hits me all over again. My chest feels like it's caving in. My throat threatens to collapse, and the only thing keeping the heat behind my eyes from spilling over is knowing how little I deserve to cry. If my father could see me now, he would be sickened to the depths of his being. I am even more wrong than I suspected. Wrong. The most accomplished lover in Yuan kissed me, long and deep, and continues to do his best to seduce me, and I feel nothing but vague curiosity and more pronounced anxiety. Now, a beast from the desert stands too close, and I am dizzy with wanting him. I crave his calloused hands on me, and I want to be pinned beneath him, the way I was the first night. But this time he wouldn't be angry, and I wouldn't be scared. I would be eager, because I'm twisted, tainted, wrong. My stomach rebels. I taste some stomach juices and the beet soup I forced down my throat at dinner, and barely swallow it down. I twist free of Jem's arms and stumble to the edge of the garden before stopping to bury my face in my hands. I concentrate on the smell of the jasmine perfume at my wrists, the contrast of my breath warming my nose, and the cold of my fingers, pressed against my forehead, struggling to pull myself together. Isra. When Jem's hand finds my elbow, I pull away. I'm fine. I cross my arms and hug tightly, holding the miserable scraps of myself together. I can't fall apart. Not now. I don't need help. I can count my steps to the field. Hopefully, by the time we reach the end of them, I will have gained control of my stomach. As for the rest of me, if that other hunger returns, I'll think of Baba and how ashamed he would be. I'll think of my people and the way their lips would curl if they knew the depraved nature of their queen. I'll think of Jem. He would be as sickened as my people. He loathes smooth skins. He would never think of a smooth-skinned woman in that way. He puts his arms around me because it was practical. That's the end of it. If he knew the unnatural acts that danced through my mind a moment ago, he would abandon me on the spot, though I need his help more than ever. By the time we find the King's Gate, hidden behind the ivory-covered wall, behind the granaries, I'm no longer afraid of going into the desert. I stand calmly by as Jem moves the wooden plank, bearing the door. My pulse is steady. There's nothing out there as scary as the shifting world inside me. I will be safe from the monstrous attack with one of their own by my side, and 3 days isn't enough to damage my skin. Not that it would matter. Your skin isn't much to look at anyways. For you, this is no great risk, but for Yuan. I pause with my hands on the ancient wooden handle. Hurry, Jem urges in a tight whisper. There are 2 soldiers on the walk. They will be over our heads soon. I leave my people without a king or queen, I whisper, a lump rising in my throat. What if the roses were right? What if I'm better off returning to the tower? If something happens to me, nothing will happen. Jem's heat warms my back as he moves closer. The desert is a mother to me. I'll keep you safe and bring you home. I give my word. Your word. Yes, he says, his hand closing over mine. Mine, and I will not break it. You can trust me, Isra. It's me I don't trust, I think. But there's no time for consideration. I pull my shawl over my head and turn the handle, and Jem and I slip through the heavy door and ease it closed behind us. And then I'm outside the dome. Outside. For a moment, I can't move. I'm stunned by the strange, dusty, empty smell of the desert, by the cold, so much colder than anything I've felt before, by the howling in the distance. It's not an animal, not a human, not even a monstrous. This howl is otherworldly, relentless, keening, more chilling than the cold. I take a step closer to Jem, in spite of myself. What is that? My voice sounds smaller, out here in the great wide world. What is the sound? The moaning. Oh, he says, a hint of laughter in the word. The wind through the dead trees at the base of the first hill. Nothing to be afraid of. The wind. The wind has a voice. I shove my shawl off my head, and a wind, not of my own making, lifts my hair from my shoulders, sending it whipping around my face. Strands catch on the chapped place on my lip and lash to my eyes, but I feel no pain. My lungs ache, and my throat burns, and my eyes sting until I can't stop the tears from coming. But I'm not sad. You're crying, Jem says, that vaguely horrified voice of his. It makes me laugh and then cry even harder. My shoulders shake until my shawl falls off. My nose runs, but I don't wipe it. I don't care about my leaky nose or leaky eyes. I don't care about my ugliness or wrongness or the dark fate awaiting me under the dome. I'm not under the dome. For the first time ever, I'm free.